right, this week we got Roanoke Colony. We're joined by Morgan, fan favorite.
Yes.
In early 1587, a group of around 120 settlers left England and sailed across the Atlantic Ocean to Roanoke Island off the coast of North Carolina. The colonists were led by Governor John White. The goal was to establish the first permanent English settlement in the New World. In July of 1587, the colonists arrived. However, soon after arrival, local Native American tribes began attacking the colonists due to poor relations with previous English colonists. 2 years earlier, in 1585, a group of nearly 600 men from England also sailed to Roanoke with similar hopes of creating a settlement. They would quickly make relations with the natives. All was going well. However, many natives started dying of unknown illnesses. This was due to the English carrying pathogens that the natives didn't have immunity to. The colonists also didn't have enough food, thus relying heavily on the generosity of the natives. However, they too quickly began running out of food for themselves, let alone 600 English strangers. This would cause a strain between colonist leader Governor Ralph Lane and local native chief Wingina. Wingina would relocate his people further inland. However, Governor Lane believed that the natives were planning a surprise attack on the colonists. In June 1586, Governor Lane led a massacre on Wingina's people and decapitated Wingina. Shortly after, Governor Lane and the settlers would leave Roanoke and sail back to England. It should be noted that John White was also part of this trip as a colonist. About a year later is when John White returned with his own colony. They soon realized that if they were to sustain a permanent settlement on the island, they would need more food, people, and weapons. In August of 1587, 2 months after they arrived, White sailed back to England to get more supplies, leaving behind all the colonists, including his daughter Eleanor Dare, who had just given birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the first baby in North America born to English parents. Are you on your phone?
No, I'm playing with this.
Read
your fucking script.
Bruh, I can't read it if you're not paying attention.
I'm listening. Virginia gave birth to New York, and the Jon Snow fucking got killed and came back to life, and Roanoke Colony. I believe this happens in America.
Okay, well, you're on course, kind of. Unfortunately, England was at war with Spain at the time. With the Spanish having a strong armada, John White was trapped in England for 3 years. In spring of 1590, White was able to venture back to Roanoke along with more colonists and supplies. In August, White was nearing Roanoke Island. The crew fired their cannons to alert of their presence. Once on the island, they found a fresh set of footprints, yet they could not find anyone. In the search, they found a tree with the letters CRO written on it. At the entrance of the colony, the word Croatoan was carved on a post. With the overgrowth of grass, it was determined that the place had been abandoned for some time. There was barely anything left inside, and the boats that had been left were gone. White attempted to venture 45 miles south to the island of Croatoan, where he believed that the colonists had traveled to. However, the anchor of the ship had broken, and since the ship did not belong to White, he was forced to turn back to England, never making it to Croatoan Island. John White would move to Ireland and died many years later, never knowing what happened to his family. What happened?
What the fuck do you want me to add to this?
What happened, though?
What do you guys want from me? What do you want me to add?
Oh,
wow, Caleb. Oh, really cool. Really good script. That's very interesting.
But,
Are you happy?
What was interesting about it?
What was interesting? Nothing. They got fucking murdered.
With all of that, let's get into the theories. Our first theory is that the colonists were killed by the natives.
Oh!
With the previous settlement attempt a year earlier resulting in the English decapitating a native chief, it's an understatement to say that relations were very strained between the natives and English. A few weeks after this first expedition had abandoned Roanoke, an English fleet had arrived at the island with supplies for the settlers because they had no way of knowing they had returned to England. This fleet didn't want to leave the island abandoned just in case somebody was still there, so they left 15 men on the island. About a year later is when John White's colony had first arrived. However, they did not find any of the 15 men, but rather only found a pile of bones, indicating that the natives had killed them.
I want to know, what the records people are getting this from. Like some motherfucker's notebook
Because
that has pages ripped out.
Well, they write it down and then they leave it in like archives.
What archives? Where?
I don't know, in fucking the English.
You're the one who did you did the research for the video.
I didn't find.
You
I
should
didn't. I
know.
didn't run. I didn't run to fucking Britain or whatever the fuck this is, England, and sit there and go through their little archive folders. Not mentioned earlier, but a few days after White's colony had first arrived, a man named George Howell was searching for crabs when he was attacked by natives who shot him with 16 arrows and caved his skull in with a wooden club. All this. A little bit of overkill.
16 arrows.
A bit of overkill.
Maybe if it takes 16 arrows to kill one dude, maybe 15 dudes is enough.
All of this leads to the idea that the colony had been attacked and killed by natives in White's 3-year absence. However, the problem with this theory is that no mass grave or evidence of a mass attack has ever been found on the island. That must suck though, like leaving for 3 years, coming back, and just never seeing your friends and family again.
Yeah. I could imagine that would suck. Yes, Caleb.
I'm just saying.
That would probably be a bummer. A little bit.
Our second theory is that the colonists moved to Croatoan Island. Many find that the strangest part of this mystery is the 2 engravings White found. However, some, including White himself, believe that this was the colonists' way of saying where they had gone. In White's own words, he explained that before he left, he and the settlers agreed that if they were to relocate, they would leave a, quote, secret token indicating where they had gone to. If they had to leave due to some sort of distress, they were also to carve a cross. This cross wasn't found. Further supporting this theory is that in 1584, there was an English scouting expedition that went to Roanoke in search for a place of settlement. They would make friends with 2 natives and return to England with them. These 2 natives were Wanchese, who was from Roanoke, and Manteo, who was from Croatoan. About a year later, they would return to North America, where Wanchese had grown a resentment towards the English, but Manteo had become a trusted ally who would help English relations with the natives. Manteo had also returned to England for a second time, where he met and became friends with John White. In fact, after Manteo was baptized in 1587, White declared him to be chief of the Roanoke and Croatoan tribes. However, since Manteo was only from the Croatoan tribe, he could not control the Roanoke tribe, being that his title was given to him by somebody who wasn't even a Native American. He would return to his own colony on Croatoan. After George Howell was killed, White had reached out to Manteo, and in a twist of events, Manteo revealed that the 15 English that had been left on the island a year earlier were indeed killed by natives in an attack led by Wanchese. Perhaps after White had returned to England, the threat of a native attack led to the colonists moving to Croatoan, where they would find safety with Manteo and his people. A little over a full century later, in the beginning of the 18th century, an English surveyor named John Larson made contact with a native tribe named the Hatteras, who lived on Hatteras Island. Hatteras Island had been connected to Croatoan Island after a storm closed an inlet. This tribe told Larson that some of their ancestors were white and could read. Larson also noticed that some of them had gray eyes, which is apparently a unique feature for the natives to have. He also noticed some of them practicing forms of Christianity. This led Larson to believe that Roanoke colony had moved to Croatoan and become one with them. In 2015, archaeologists found multiple European objects where the Croatoan tribe resided, 2 of which were a slate slab that Europeans used as a writing tablet, and they found the hilt of an iron rapier, a sword used in England in the late 16th century. The tablet had a letter M printed in the corner and was found close to a lead pencil.
The M stood for Morgan.
Mm-hmm. They were starting to write a hate comment about you not commenting enough.
What's your opinion on it?
What's my opinion on it? I think that it's pretty obvious that they went there. They literally wrote a message. The fact that we're even doing this video is just beyond me. I don't know why we're doing this.
You fucking chose it.
I did, and then I started doing research, and I realized how obvious it is that they obviously went to this island. They literally left a message saying, yeah, we're going here. Why would they not?
And we're not in danger.
Yeah. Our final theory is that the colonists moved inland. During the first failed settlement attempt, John White began making a map of the North Carolina coast. Over the next few years, he would eventually finish the map, named La Virginia Parse. This map is very detailed and extremely accurate for the time. According to historians, the map is, quote, the most careful, detailed piece of cartography for any part of North America to be made in the 16th century. When compared with modern satellite imagery, the only parts that have changed are naturally occurring shifts in the banks due to weather.
I mean, I guess there's some differences.
Well, there's differences because this is 500 years later.
500 years, yeah.
Yeah, it just naturally changes.
Yeah. That's crazy, though. I don't get how they do that.
I don't know. Because he didn't have tools either. He was probably just looking through like
He's just
a
eyeballing
telescope.
it.
Yeah, a telescope, eyeballing it. In 2012, a British museum used imagery techniques to reevaluate the map. Shockingly, underneath a patch, they found a four-pointed red and blue star. Stars on maps during this time period usually represented forts. Also on top of the patch, they found another similar star that was ever so slightly visible. They determined that was most likely drawn in an invisible ink, such as milk or lemon juice, and could only be seen by heating the map up. The museum concluded that this is most likely a fort that was hidden by John White himself. White may have done this to hide the fort from Spanish spies who in the past had intercepted other English maps. This fort was roughly 50 miles inland from Roanoke Island. In John White's own written account, he made a comment about the colonists possibly moving 50 miles inland.
Secret messages on a map. Oh, bro. Why do we live in 2025?
Excavations around the site have found English pottery and stoneware that were described as being, quote, Roanoke colonist period ceramics, but no sign of a fort has been found, assuming it was ever built. In 1937, a man came forward with a stone slab that had an inscription etched into it by none other than Eleanor Dare. The man claims he found the stone around 50 miles inland from Roanoke Island. The inscription was translated by experts. Shockingly, the message begins by saying that Dare's daughter and husband had tragically died. On the back is a message that says that after John had left, the natives had killed many of the colonists. Soon after the stone was turned in, a $500 reward was offered to anyone else with other stone inscriptions. As such, many other people came forward with other stone messages supposedly written by Dare. In total, 48 were brought in. However, in 1941, a journalist came forward accusing the stones of being a hoax because the writing didn't match the style Eleanor would have used and that the stones were plagued with inaccuracies. Many other experts drew similar conclusions. However, the first stone wasn't directly proven to be faked. In 2016, a geologist analyzed the original stone and found that when a piece was broken off, the broken part was much lighter than the other parts. He determined that if it was a hoax, that the inscription would be a lot lighter. However, when the stone was first turned in, it appeared weathered, as if it was written around Dare's time. Going back to where the stone was found, it wasn't directly found where the star was located, but it was found close by. However, the problem with this theory is the Croatoan carving. Why would the colonists have left this clue if they were going inland instead of to Croatoan?
But this stone's fake.
And so they were like, if anybody else finds more stones, we'll give you an reward. A cash reward.
Okay, yeah.
And so people were like, oh, man, look, I found this one in my basement. Oh, look what I found up my ass. But those ones were proven to be fake because of inaccuracies and it didn't match.
But the first one is real.
But it doesn't count out the first one. And then, as you know how stones work, right? How you carve into it, and it's much lighter when you carve into it or break a stone, right? And in 2016, they analyzed
it. Do you do much stone carving?
And they determined that yes, indeed, stones do leave lighter marks when they're carved into.
Interesting.
That is interesting. I still think they went to Croatoan because I don't know why they would leave a message.
I do too.
Prank them.
Yeah.
Prank
Really
John.
shitty joke.
Yeah. It's a really bad joke.